Okay, guys, technical difficulties are taking too long, so I'm just going to freestyle. How about that? All right. Man, if I would have known this, I could have saved a lot of hours on that presentation, but that's okay. So my name is Brittan. Thank you guys for coming. I know there's like really exciting competitions and hackathons and all kinds of cool stuff going on right now, so I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited to be at SIC. I am the Director of Client Strategy for iAcquire. I'm based in New York City, so came a long way, but I'm excited to be here. This is a really cool conference, and I'm happy to be part of it. The conversation today, just so you know, is not going to be technical. It's going to be very I don't want to say in your face, but talking about things that are sort of uncomfortable, that aren't generally spoken about at conferences. So the title is Interactivity is Interpersonal. Real work requires real talk, because it's catchy and I like alliteration, but that's the reality of the work that we do. So often we talk about the results, the case studies. We sometimes talk about failures, and we might mention breakdowns in teams or collaboration, but we just don't often talk about the day-to-day hard reality of working together. So I want to keep this pretty informal, particularly since I don't have slides behind me. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me. Feel free if you have questions in the middle of it, or you want to hear more, or if you just want to give it, amen, sister, I'm good with that. I'd like to keep this a little bit informal, if that's all right. So I was going to open up to talk to you guys a little bit about a story that I have. I personally am a Daily Show fan. I'm a big fan of Jon Stewart. Did any of you guys watch that show? All right. I've been a fan for a really long time, and I've seen a couple tapings because I am in New York, and my office is in Midtown, so I'm able to get over there pretty easily, and that's one of the things I love about living in New York. And before tapings, Jon will give time for Q&A, and he'll usually grab a tidbit. And if you guys watch the show, you'll see him do some sort of inside joke to the camera that really helps him connect with the audience. One of the things I really like about The Daily Show is that, first of all, it's been a huge platform for a lot of things. It's comedic writing, but it very much tells a story. A lot of talent has come from there and gone on to do bigger and better things. And also, he doesn't shy away from conversations that are uncomfortable, people that he disagrees with. And, that I think is really, really interesting. But it doesn't always go well. Like, all of his interviews aren't wonderful. They're not great, which I find really fascinating. It's one of the things that makes me like him, because he's very real. And I know every single person in this room, and if you don't admit to it, you're totally lying, that you've had a problem at some point with a colleague, a coworker, a boss, a partner agency you've had to collaborate with, a client, something. We all have, because we're people, we're complicated. We don't leave parts of ourselves at home. Oh, yay, I'm back. So, all right, so we got through this part already. But I thought that this was going to be in your face until I saw that video at lunchtime with the little kid. Did anybody else see that? That was so scary. That made this look not scary at all. Anyway, so we'll get through here. All right, so I got to ask a question. That's where this was going. I got to ask a question beforehand. I was so pumped he picked me. And I said, what is your go-to tactic for interviewing people you don't like? Because I know, and you know, you have to do that. And I wanted to hear what he had to say. I don't know what I expected his response to be, but this is the kind of thing I had in mind. Come on, like, we know that they're not really best friends. This is, I've seen him interview Bill O'Reilly several times. It's a great platform for Bill O'Reilly. He's been on his show. So it's an interesting dynamic, right? They're able to work together, but I'm guessing they're not like huge fans of each other. Maybe they are. But this was his answer. Okay, so yes, I have heard of Xanax. But again, the actual raw reality behind this, which is, again, something I really appreciate about comedy, is the truth in some of that. We've got more and more people on anti-anxiety medication, antidepressants, stressed out, freaked out, just feeling pretty terrible. And a lot of that has to do with our jobs, our economic situations, change, instability, fears of the future. There's a lot of reasons for it, but it doesn't end when you get to work, and sometimes work is the cause of it. And so, yeah, you definitely are going to have to work with people you don't like. You don't get jobs based on, am I going to like all these people, or are all these people going to like me? Obviously, the reality is it's much easier if people like you, but sometimes it's hard if people like you too. So it's pretty much almost a no-win situation all the time. You can't win all the time. You can't be popular all the time. You're not right all the time. And you're not working with people that are right or popular or fun or wonderful all the time either, but you're still going to work with people. Most of us aren't islands. We've got some independent consultants, but still, you got to work with your clients. So there's a lot of aspects of collaboration that we just really need to face, because it can be really beneficial if you figure out a way to work with people that you don't necessarily see eye to eye with. So over the last 10 years, I have worked with and for a lot of brands and agencies. So my function at iAcquire is Director of Client Strategy, which is kind of a buzzword title. I am responsible for all of our clients, all of the retention and the growth of our clients for iAcquire. So I run the team of account managers, which means I'm an advocate for my team, I'm an advocate for our clients, I'm an advocate for our product and what we're trying to do, our messaging, and I'm an advocate out here talking to you guys. In other examples, so I've worked for other agencies, I've worked directly with companies. So whether it's interagency collaboration, internal collaboration, or just dealing directly with clients, it gets really complicated. What we do now in digital touches so many things. Sales, customer service, legal, HR, IT, ops, creative strategy. It's very messy. I have a friend who tried to explain her brain to me one time. She was really upset, and I was trying to kind of coach her through a professional situation that her brain worked like spaghetti. You can't really separate the noodles out without getting sauce all over yourself. So I really like this picture because I think that's also very much a representation of our jobs today. We all touch each other. Because that sounded really crazy. but those departments represent people, and people work in those departments, right? Usually not people we've chosen. So we may have the power to choose our own teams. It's very reminiscent of dodgeball in PE class when you're a little kid. You might be able to choose your own team, but you can't choose your class. Right? Team sports, there's a lot of metaphors in here, but the bottom line is we usually don't get to choose all of the people that we work with. And even when we do, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to be smooth sailing. Because in any collaboration, of course, the goal is success. Collaborations are challenging. Can I get an amen? Okay. I just want to make sure you guys are with me. I know you probably just had some lunch. So, I'm not here to talk about a case study. There's not going to be any stats or analytics. We're just going to have real talk, and in the spirit of transparency, we're going to talk about some of the shitty stuff we have to deal with each other and internally with ourselves sometimes as well. So how do we collaborate successfully? Let's discuss overcoming the challenges to our work. Obstacle number 1, group dynamics. All right, can you guys raise your hands for me? Who has ever had a problem with the dynamics of a group they've been involved in? Yes, I know, right? Groups can be such a pain in the ass, but they're necessary. It's not ever gonna end. So no matter who you're collaborating with, there are common challenges that you're gonna run into. People not being able to work together effectively is one of the biggest obstacles that we face in business. It feels like this. And even if we aren't directly involved in action, I'll call it drama. That's what it is half the time. Even the most intelligent, brilliant, calmest people can get caught up in the drama of a situation. Because when we care about something that we do so fully, it's very, very difficult to separate ourselves emotionally from the challenges that we face without feeling like those are a personal attack on us. And I know we've all experienced that. And so even if we aren't involved directly, we've often had front row seats for it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen my clients fight amongst themselves, especially if something that we're recommending for them involves multiple channels within their organization. The fights have been crazy. Finger pointing. This might be too soon, but dropped balls of major projects. Ooh. We've all been thrown under the bus or been tempted to, give a little. These are common themes throughout business. We've all heard these terms because we all know a situation where something like this happened. Problems can be due to individuals. How often have you heard corporate politics discussed in a conference? How many of you have had some negative experiences with corporate politics? Probably some right now. It's almost impossible to avoid. Wherever there are groups of people, there will be gossip, there will be manipulation, there will be fear, which drives a lot of these things, anxieties, miscommunication, all of these things drive things like politics. Brilliance. That seems weird to be on this slide, right? But sometimes that can be challenging to deal with somebody whose intelligence or talent is so far above everyone else. It doesn't always mean that those people like to participate in groups. Leadership. That is real talk. I believe personally that leadership plays a huge role in determining how group dynamics are represented culturally within an organization. Personalities. I myself, this is probably shocking, I have a very large personality, so generally when I'm involved in a group project, that is something I have to watch about myself, and competitiveness. Office politics can breed distrust and distraction, and that is a huge issue in several places and opportunities I've had to collaborate with other people. It's very difficult to overcome. Personalities overshadowing talent. That's probably one of the saddest things that I've seen, and I think something probably we've all experienced. Just because you're a very talented person does not mean that you are talented in the area of communication or collaboration. That can be an additional challenge that's not foreseen when assembling a large group. Leaders can lose touch and sometimes hinder more than help. Ambition can distract us from our purpose, cause lines to blur, and it can bring a whole lot of people with it. Brilliance is not guaranteed easy to work with, and not everyone's competitive side is their best side. Problems can be cultural. Focus, talent, structure, resources, communication, accountability. Like I said, leadership to me is one of the biggest solutions when it comes to these areas. And it's also still the challenge in and of itself. Successful collaboration starts at the top. It is the responsibility for people who are in roles like mine, and also obviously C-level, to set the tone for collaboration across an organization. The culture of a team is defined, even if it's unintentionally, by how the people at the top of the organization collaborate. And in almost every circumstance that I have seen dysfunction and collaboration in an organization, it has absolutely been a mirror image of what's happening at the top. So one thing that I would recommend if you found yourself in a corporate culture or you see your company or your team is spinning out of control, is to find a way to loop in the leadership of that organization. And what's really hard about this is this is hard feedback to take as a leader. It's hard feedback to take at any time. Feedback in general, unless it's glowing and brilliant, is difficult to take any time. But one of my recommendations for improving collaboration is to find a way for leadership, if there is a breakdown there, which usually there is, to loop them in, to improve self-awareness, to encourage a change or a shift in culture across an organization instead of focusing it on certain teams or certain projects, but to encourage leadership to take an active part in recognizing what those issues are and find a way to overcome them as an entire company or organization. Communication, again, this one's pretty obvious, but man, is it hard. I consider myself to be a pretty good communicator. I feel like I can translate myself into many different modes of communication, and it still feels like a runaway train sometimes when a situation goes awry because of miscommunication. Emails, IMs, text messages all lack tone and sometimes context. It is very, very important to always be improving your ability to communicate. And you can't control other people in a situation, but if you notice that certain people communicate better via email, if certain people communicate better in person, face-to-face, schedule a face-to-face meeting. Try to communicate your thoughts in an email. If it's email and you've had people misinterpret your emails in the past, you may want to take a look at your tone when you're writing your emails. Because if it's happened more than once, you might need to take a look at how you're communicating yourself. Even if your intentions are good, it may be the person you're emailing is extremely sensitive or misunderstanding you. Whatever the case may be, communication is something we can take ownership of. And we can help other people learn how to communicate better with us by being most aware of our preferred methods of communication. And we can also, if we become versed in multiple languages of communication, written, verbal, relaxed environments, group environments, if we can become more versatile, we will all participate better in groups and have more success. This is just kind of a public service announcement. This is something I've seen so many times by so many different people. Being outrageous when communicating outrage often outweighs the strength of being right. This just reinforces the importance of communication. I've seen many circumstances where people had valid points. They had right to be upset, feel frustrated, and confused feelings with facts. And feelings are going to be a part of anything we're passionate about, and that's something that we need to acknowledge and observe. But communicating feelings in a business setting, especially when it's a very sensitive situation or a breakdown in a collaboration, can, if it's done inappropriately, can further demolish the situation. So when you are upset or feeling emotional about a situation, think about how you are communicating that, because being right does not always mean that the outcome is going to be in your favor. And if something that you have to say or something you feel does not further a situation, maybe edit yourself a little bit, take some time away, walk away. Obstacle number 2, other departments. Ugh. I get tons of questions. I presented at MozCon in July, which was a great opportunity, and I talked about soft skills. And I got a ton of questions afterwards about, like, what do you do? How do you get through legal? Like, how do I get budget for something? And it was really about, how do I advocate for myself? How do I, I'm really good at what I do, but I can't get other people to understand that. I'm really good at what I do, but what I do doesn't involve, explaining that to somebody with a legal background that doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. And that, that really does take a different skill set. So I'm going to give some examples, but there are certain skill sets that you're going to see that I'm a huge fan of and I think are really, really valuable, in addition to the communication and leadership ones. Dealing with other departments feels like this too, sometimes. It feels like they just don't get you, particularly a lot of times legal. Dealing with the internet is really challenging when you're trying to push the boundaries and do innovative things. Not all the laws have caught up to where we are. Not all legal people are technical people, even if they work for a technical company. These things can be really challenging and really frustrating and feel really unfair to deal with. They can feel like a huge hindrance to our creativity. But dealing with red tape is a part of getting anything new, cool, innovative, crazy, exciting accomplished, because that's part of what you're doing, is you're blazing a trail. And if maybe you're not doing something new and you're in a really regulated industry and you're just trying to do something regular and that's really annoying because you can't get that through and other people seem to be able to do it, that's part of the industry that you've chosen sometimes, and there's going to be additional barriers there. But there are ways to deal with it. And one of the ways to deal with red tape, legal departments, those things hindering or putting a box around your creativity, are remembering that legal professionals are people too. Respect and try to understand what they do if you want them to do the same thing for you. So the purpose of a legal department within an organization is to protect it. To protect its employees, to protect their work, to protect their investors. It's there to protect us, as annoying as that is, just like it's annoying sometimes to wear a seatbelt if you're only going to block. There are a lot of annoying rules that we have to follow, but the job of that person, of that legal department that's telling you no, is to protect you. And it's obviously not fun to be the rule person all the time. I'm sure that, most people in those roles are not just like, can't wait to come to work and just spoil the dreams of all the creative people in their company. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants that. So taking the time to realize that these people are people that you know what your job is, whether it's to market your company, bring in leads for the sales team, produce revenue, keep your clients happy, whatever the job may be, this department is here to protect the company and also protect you. And if they're overprotective sometimes, that can be dealt with. But the purpose of their function is something that you really need to consider. So, Don't ignore the rules even if you need to break them. That doesn't establish a good collaborative environment. Understand the rules. That is where the power lies. Lawyers know about that. Understanding the rules will help you be more creative about how to work around them, within them, suggest changes, find other organizations who have done similar things to you that you'd like to do, show examples of them doing that work, inspire research, inspire change, inspire collaboration by understanding the rules and why they exist. Ask for guidelines and ask for tips if it's a new area or if it's one that you keep running into accidentally. These things will make the lives easier of the people who have to review your contracts, the people who need to review anything that you're trying to do. If you're working at least to understand and stay within guidelines that they've given you or tips, or you're asking them how you can make their job easier, you're gonna have a much better time. Plan ahead. If you know that it takes your legal department 7 business days to get through a contract, don't get a contract that you need back the next day. People do that and they hope like, oh, if it's urgent, if I put a deadline on it, this will make these people hurry up. Maybe I can slip this little section in here and they won't notice it. You know, I've seen that time and time again, where people's projects were delayed dramatically because of certain aspects of contracts, because of not planning properly with turnaround times and other things that are available to them and within their control. And again, the blame goes on legal instead of, oh, maybe I should have planned ahead. Maybe I should have contacted them and asked them what their availability was. Maybe I should have done these things before I committed to a timeline, before our contract ran out and I no longer have access to something I need. So plan ahead. Include your legal team and their turnaround times in your planning and take responsibility for that. It shows respect. And when you show respect to other people, working with them is so much easier and they're much more likely to show respect to you too. Also, take the time to educate and excite legal on your project. I've gotten on calls before with my clients to talk to their legal team, and I've done the educating and the exciting. I've walked their legal department through what we were trying to do. I've gotten them pumped up and jazzed and showed them other examples on the internet of things that they could be doing. I did that on behalf of my client because that's sometimes what you need to do. Because most of the time, if your legal department works for the same company you do, they might believe in what you're trying to do. You're trying to market the company or you're making a better product or whatever it is that you're doing. This other department is also part of it. If you can let them know how important they are to the process, what them helping you get through that contract or helping you negotiate that means to your project and what that means to the company, that's a much better place than feeling like the bad guy all the time. It makes you feel like part of something. You're excited about it too. You just learned something that you didn't know before. Those are things that encourage collaboration instead of putting up walls against it. Education and context is incredibly important. Time invested in understanding how the situation you're facing came to be is time well spent. Meaning, was your company burned in the past? Have you had other vendors that didn't pay their bills or didn't hold up their end of the contract, violated terms? What is it that you don't know that makes your legal department push back on the things that they push back on? Walls generally exist in an effort to protect and preserve. Understanding how they're built will help you figure out how to scale the obstacle they represent. Brick wall number 2, IT. Some of you guys might not have any issues with these people. Some people might, depending on the progressiveness of your organization or how big your organization is too. That makes a huge difference in these challenges. How I feel looking at this is probably how somebody who works in a room like this feels like when I'm facing going into a client meeting like what I do. Like, there's a lot of responsibility going on. They're making sure that the systems that the organization uses are controlled, they're up and running, that the security of an organization is secure. There's a lot of responsibilities, and there's projects from all kinds of different departments. And so understanding and respecting that, same thing I would say about the legal department. IT professionals are people too, and you may be very technical in just another part of the business, which that can cause other issues. That can cause pride and ambition issues of, well, you just don't know about this or you just don't know about that. I've seen this happen, and can anybody relate to this? Yeah, I'm a better programmer. They don't even, they're using that window. Oh, that's terrible. I'm obviously not a super technical person. I'm a tech savvy person. But it almost helps me sometimes because I can go to our IT team and say, hey guys, I have a problem and I feel like you guys can solve this for me. Is this something you can help me understand? Is this something you can help me figure out? And if they say, I don't have the bandwidth right now, I have this many requests, this is what I'm doing, it's gonna take me 3 weeks to get to your request, then at least I know. It's the same thing about turnaround times. It's the same thing about understanding what demands are being made of them. Sometimes we don't think about that. Sometimes we think, especially if we're client-facing people like me, well, yeah, but like this is for a client, so it's more important. Yeah, this is for sales, so that's where the money comes from, so this is more important than whatever you need to do for HR or whatever you need to do for operations. Like, this is way more important. Everybody usually thinks that they're the most important person. By making the people and understanding how important those people are, how important your IT team is or your legal team is, maybe those aren't the most glamorous or glorious positions, but they're important too. By understanding their importance, by understanding their work, their humanity, their challenges, their struggles, you will have a much better, much more collaborative conversation. Same rules apply here. Ask for guidelines and tips. Are there certain vendors you need to stay away from? Are there certain changes to the site that you'll never be able to make because of the CMS? Are there certain things that you can't say or you shouldn't say or you won't have enough characters for? I mean, if you don't know those things, you should. Educate yourself as much as possible. Understand your limitations. Understand why they exist. Because I love this picture. Don't ever underestimate the problem-solving ability of technology and what it's like to have people who can help solve problems internally using technology or using a system on your side. So instead of seeing some different departments as opposed or as a brick wall, they may be just the people to help you scale a much larger wall using a solution that you may not have known about because you may not have understood what they were up against themselves. Same thing, education and context. Investing time in understanding this and what you're asking for, because I've seen this so many times. I've seen marketers sign themselves up for a large undertaking when it comes to maybe a site build or a site overhaul or a tool, that they're not really completely understanding the undertaking that it means for their tech team and haven't fully fleshed out the details and end up putting people in bad situations. So understanding what you're asking for, how it affects others within your organization is time well spent, because walls also represent structure. And before you change a structure, you need to understand it. Obstacle 3, getting budget. Ugh. This one usually stresses people out, and I don't know, does the thought of asking for money stress anybody in this room out? All right, a lot of nodding. That's been the sole purpose of my job for a really long time, so this is something that I'm used to. And one thing that I think is helpful for people who are not in revenue-driving positions or are very uncomfortable asking for money in any circumstance, one thing that I think is important to do, think of money as a representation of confidence and opportunity. Don't think of it as money. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm gonna let that sink in. Because I mean, what is money? It's like, it's numbers, it's decimal points, it's like, it's a little plastic card right now, or it's a purchase order number. I mean, who knows what it means? It's just a concept. It means confidence and opportunity in what you're doing. And the more confidence and opportunity you need, the harder it is sometimes to ask for it. You have to believe in your ideas. You have to believe in yourself. And this translates to a team environment too, because if you're working in a collaborative group and maybe you aren't selling the product to yourself when you're executing on part of the project or part of the product, and there's somebody else who's entrusted in the revenue function, somebody else who's responsible for making sure it's paid for, if that person doesn't have confidence in the product, if you don't have confidence in what you're asking for, it's going to lose steam every step of the way. It's going to dilute every single time it has to go through another person. And so if you don't have a lot to start with, it doesn't give people in the position very much to work with. You need to know what something is worth before you ask for it. You can't expect other people to assign value to something for you. Be really, really sure about what you need and how much you need, and stick to that. That's really, really important. Here's why. Actually, I'm going to skip ahead for a second. Know what you will settle for and what you won't accept, and then stick to it. This is huge. I'm going to get on a soapbox here. Don't tell me that you can't do something for $10,000, that you need $20,000, when you get a no to $20,000 and then you still make the same thing you said you couldn't make for $20,000 for 10. Does that make sense to you guys? I hate that, because you will never, ever get $20,000 for it if you make it for 10, even once. It's not going to happen. So if you say you can't do something for a certain amount, don't do it. That is not like a super popular thing to say. It seems really abrasive. It doesn't maybe seem like a team player thing. But that is how you help people understand what you need, standing up for the seriousness of what you're trying to accomplish, and you're not compromising. Just because you're trying to collaborate, just because you're trying to communicate and understand, it does not mean you should be walked all over. It doesn't mean that you don't stand up for yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't put your foot down, because that's not effective either. How many times have we sat back and been like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to say this, but this is gonna fail. We're on the road to failure. I don't wanna say anything. I don't wanna rock the boat. We're gonna be way over budget. We're gonna be way past our time frame. That's not a realistic turnaround time, and you just sat back and didn't say anything. Because it's not fun to be the unpopular one. It's not fun to be the one telling the truth when no one wants to hear the truth sometimes. It's not fun to feel like a naysayer, or feel like, hey guys, this isn't good enough. We can't show this to a client. We have to do it again. But in this situation, asking for money, ask for what you need, and if you do not get it, do the best you can with what you will get, but don't do the thing that you said that you needed that money for if you didn't get the money. Thank you. Negotiation is where I see most people fail. Being a bad negotiator is it's a huge problem. Negotiation is really hard. You have some people who ask for just outrageous shit that no one is ever going to be able to say yes to. That's bad negotiation. There's some people that will say yes to anything. That's terrible negotiation. It's not good customer service. It is not good collaboration, because if you're skimping in some area, somebody's going to have to pick that up somewhere. If it cuts into your margins, it could be affecting the owners, it could be affecting commission, it could be affecting investors. Somebody somewhere is going to have consequences for us taking shortcuts and cutting corners. Another way to sell your ideas is to talk about how much it would cost not to do. It sounds like cheesy sales stuff, but seriously, it's a thing. How much would it cost us not to do this? Recently for me, it's about hiring somebody who provides tremendous value as an intern. And I want to hire him, and I want to pay him well, because he does amazing work, and I want to keep him. I want to reward him for that. I want him to feel inspired. And, I'm in New York, and I'm in the New York office, but our owners are in Arizona. They don't see him on a regular basis. They don't really see the work that he's doing. He's made my team so much more efficient that it's not obvious why we need him. And so when I'm fighting to get the budget to hire this kid and pay him, that's insulting he just got out of college. I don't mean to call him a kid, but this man, and pay him what he's worth and what I think he could get somewhere else, I have to make that argument. I need you to understand what will happen if we do not hire him. Our productivity will go down here. We'll probably have to hire 2 interns to replace him. There will be ramp-up time. These reports won't get done. This won't get done. This won't get done. And the workloads of everybody else on my team will feel like they're doubling because of what they'll have to replace in him. I haven't won yet. I'm not done fighting that battle. But I did get his hourly pay from $12 to $20 an hour. And that was very, very important to me. So he still knows he's valuable to me. He's paid more. I got additional budget. I'm still not done with that fight, though, because that's not enough. I want him hired, and I think that it's good for our organization, so I will continue to advocate for him, and I will continue to advocate for the budget to bring him on full-time. Let me go back a slide. This one's really important. Ask the right person at the right time the right way. This is pretty key. The right time to ask for a raise is not after losing like a huge client, probably a bad time. That would be a bad time for me at least. It's part of my job to keep our clients. The right time is maybe coming off of speaking at a nice conference after being at a company for a year and feeling like, you could quantify your value for a while. That's a good time to ask for a raise. But be considerate. Think about it. Think about it. You don't want to think about what mood people are in. What else are they going through? But if you want the answer that you want, you do want to think about those things. Why would we do that in life and then ignore that in our professional settings? That doesn't make any sense. Ask at the right time. Ask the right person. And ask the right way. Also, classic sales move, but also very true. What's in this for me? Be able to articulate that. What's in it for the person you're asking? What's in it for your organization? What's in it for the client? Make sure you can answer that question. Negotiation and salesmanship, completely underrated. Life skills. I feel like because of my years in sales, I am so much better at life. I'm better at buying a car. I'm better at renting an apartment or buying a house or, investing in anything. I understand how negotiation works and how business works. And also because I understand sometimes I might have 20 reasons why I'm right about something, but I won't make my point if I say all 20. You guys will get bored or fall asleep, whatever. But if I know which three to pick, and I stand really strong in those 3 reasons why my argument is really solid and why it's really important that you pay attention to these instead of every single reason ever, those 3 reasons that are very clear, very hard to deny, very hard to turn away, I'm much more likely to achieve the outcome I would like in a situation. Salesmanship and negotiation, maintaining calm in a situation, understanding all angles of it, asking the right person at the right time, the right way, and not backing down. You must know what you can ask for and what you have to relinquish. If you can't sell your ideas and yourself in a collaborative environment, you will fail or you won't have a voice. Charm and charisma. Has anybody ever seen anybody talk about this? Being charming in business? It sounds ridiculous, I know. It sounds manipulative. It sounds like, oh, I don't have to know anything. I can just stand up. No, that is not what I mean. That is not what I mean. Not everybody is charming and not everyone is charismatic, and that's okay. Some people are highly introverted. Some people are very private. That's fine. Charm and charisma can be found in the project that you're working on, or the product that you're working on, or in the goals that you've achieved. If you can improve traffic to your company website 30% year over year, that's freaking charming to me, right? Find a way to understand what finding something exciting, enticing, engaging. Understand what that does to you. It's great, right? We're engaged, we're excited. We're more invested. We're more tuned in. It's something that we want to do, we want to focus on. Never underestimate charm and charisma. It is very important. There's many, many ways that you can find it. But if you're not thinking about this, people who are, even if they're not doing it on purpose, they're going to have a leg up on you. Charm and charisma doesn't mean that you don't rely on your intelligence or your skills or your work ethic. It means you find a way to position those things or the results of those things in a way that's engaging and exciting, that elicits a response in people. Obstacle number 4. Me. I'll give you a few examples because I definitely know there are people who see an email from me and feel like this. I'm definitely not always the easiest person to work with. I have very high standards, pretty demanding, very passionate. I get very, very into what I'm doing, very invested. And so sometimes that can be challenging. Sometimes I have to remind myself that I need to walk away. But one of the beautiful things about the fact when we are the problem, or when you find yourself in a lot of situations and there seems to be a recurring theme following you around, you might be the problem. Being self-aware is really, really important. We can use something like this on ourselves. We might not be able to use it on other people to tear down walls, but we can do this to ourselves. We can tear down our own walls. Donuts. Difficult circumstances are always easier when there is rapport. Find a way to build rapport. You don't necessarily have to be super liked by everyone or like everyone you're working with to have rapport with the people that you're working with. Don't ignore the need for camaraderie. For those of you that aren't into drinks, that's what the donuts are for. Find a way to build camaraderie. You're in a certain situation together, you're working on it together, and there's something about the element of a team that's temporary, it's fleeting, but it's important, where when you do capture that collaboration and that camaraderie, it's very powerful. And what you begin to see are people advocating for each other. You don't have to go get the money because the sales guy is so excited about what you're talking about, he got you the money already. You don't have to worry about IT because you know what? They looked up that new tool and they found a way to work it into the restrictions of the site. Those things happen because of camaraderie and rapport. Understand what motivates you. If you don't know what motivates you, other people are not going to know how to motivate you. And if you don't know what motivates you, how are you going to understand the motivations of others? Understand what moves you. Some people get excited about puppies. I've been saying lately, because I feel like my whole job is problem solving, running into all these problems, that I want my job to be giving away puppy snuggles and baby kisses and sunshine and flowers. Sometimes I wish that's what it is. But the reality is some people get very emotional about their dogs or they get emotional about certain things. Understand what it is that moves you. If you understand what moves you, you might be able to relate to what moves other people, even if you don't like them, even if you're in a conflict. Empathy. So in summary, a pep talk, because I'm running out of time. Having the energy to get through the rough parts of doing real work is incredibly essential. When you or your team start to get discouraged, frustrated, or down, try to remember working within the confines of what you have requires imagination, determination, and creativity. Challenges can inspire us to try harder, to believe in the power of our minds, the collective power of our minds. You don't have to be everything in a group. You can let everybody shine. And if you can really work together, you'll have all your bases covered. If you try to do everything by yourself, there are going to be gaps. So don't give up, because you never know. There might be a door that you can find through that brick wall once you understand it a little bit better. So that's all I got, guys. Thank you for being patient in the beginning. I don't know do we have time for Q&A? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Okay. And I'll be around afterwards if you guys want to come talk to me.
Is there time? Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a grad student.
Okay.
I'm currently working in a team, and I'm trying to navigate how to best motivate people that aren't doing their part.
Lazies.
Yes.
I know. I didn't even talk about lazy people, but yeah, that's a problem. Sometimes it really is. Like somebody just doesn't give a crap, and it is really hard. First of all, the fact that like there's usually at least one lazy person in the group. What do you think makes two lazy people?
Two.
That sounds like school. Actually, no. It sounds like any group. There's oftentimes, people who aren't quite as motivated. I think what I would do is try to understand why they're in school, why they're in that class, what are they like in other groups and other classes, and I would have a conversation with those people. That's hard. It's very hard to be direct, but you know what? You will be doing other people's work for the rest of your life if you let them get away with it. Because people like that will exist and keep going on and on and on, and they will always find people who are too afraid to approach them and who will do their work for them, and they'll take credit for it. So you have to have real talk with these people, and you don't have to be combative. You don't have to be insulting. You don't have to be emotional. You can say, hey, this class is really important to me. Let me tell you why. This degree is really important to me. Let me tell you why. I'd love to understand why you're here and what you're doing here. That will help me understand better how to work with you. I'm really frustrated with the situation right now, and it can't continue this way. I'm not going to do your work for you. So what needs to happen for you to do it for yourself? And you just have to have a shitty conversation, basically. That's not a magical answer, but it's the truth.
Sometimes you need to hear the truth.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay.
So I actually just joined a startup. We're a really, really small team, media production, and we're starting to experience a lot of growth really, really fast, which we did not prepare for.
Yeah, that's hard.
I was asked to come in to kind of help facilitate and provide a little bit of guidance, as they grew, kind of dealing with larger scale clients, larger projects and everything. And so, of course, we've started to have those really hard conversations, where there are different working styles. We're getting kind of used to each other and how we all kind of deal with conflict and things that we don't agree on and all that. Do you have any guidance for people who are, kind of forming new teams, just getting started, experiencing that growth? That whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really hard situation that a lot of us are in. I definitely had experiences in that. And I would say be patient and be honest, because there's likely going to be a lot of change. The patience comes from really getting to know each other and understanding working styles. And the honesty is sometimes certain people can't work well together or certain structures don't work. And so what happens in small environments like that, when you can very easily attribute like a structural idea to a person or a team, an assigned team to somebody who decided those people should work together, to not get defensive, not take things personally, and try to facilitate an environment of camaraderie where the doors are open for feedback, that we're going to try a lot of ideas and a lot of things, and some of them definitely aren't going to work, but everybody's still valued. Everybody's ideas are still important. Because the problem I've seen in those situations the most is people get really emotional, really defensive. There's a lot of defensiveness that can come. They get tired, they get stressed, they get burnt out and maxed out. And so it would be best to try to avoid that portion of it at all costs and keep things positive, keep things supportive. That's the best. I mean, that's a tough situation.
Well, yeah, and I think it's definitely been, kind of balancing, trying to, get to know the team on a more personal level and, understanding that, it's like everybody's a person and kind of, learning to have those conversations where we're not always, necessarily talking about the hard stuff, but balancing that with, situations that build trust and build that kind of camaraderie.
The other thing that's good is getting people to volunteer for things instead of assigning them. There's like sort of a psychology behind the ownership that comes with the fact that you stepped up to the plate, you said that was your skill set, you took this on, rather than like, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. So this group ownership of, okay, here are all the tasks, here are all the challenges, here are the things we need to do, and then having people volunteer or take more of a participatory role in those types of things can also prevent the defensiveness and the resentment and things that having a really thinly stretched team can cause.
No, that's a great suggestion.
That's helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.